April 26th. We're doing another mock draft Monday with the Fantasy Whisperers. This time a 12-team PPR Superflex. Let's get to it.
Right here.
Johnny, Travis, happy Monday, happy mock draft, happy NFL draft week. It's a good one right now, isn't it, Johnny?
Finally, I am so excited that the actual NFL draft week is upon us. We get to finally see. We've been doing these mocks for, I don't know, seems like 10 years now, and we will finally decide. Like all those mocks that we were doing, we're like, I don't know how good of a pick this was because he's a rookie. Well, now we'll know. And guess what? We're going to go back and judge those, each and every single one of those teams. No, I'm just kidding. We won't do that. But I'm excited for this week. I can't wait, man. It's like Christmas Eve.
And the great first plug, you're going to hear me bring it up, is Thursday's NFL Round 1 draft. Join the Fantasy Whisperers live on air. We're going to be streaming, giving all of our reactions, and we'd love to get your take, answer your questions online. So be sure to join us here on our YouTube channel, Thursday, 8 p.m. Eastern Time, 5 o'clock Pacific. We'll be getting that one started. Love to have you join along with us for that Round 1 action this Thursday. Big Travie, are you looking forward to Thursday as much as Johnny is?
I don't know if it's possible to be as excited as Johnny. I've tried for years now to be that excited. It's just not possible. But I do love that we play fantasy football, which is a game of speculation. Mm-hmm. We built a brand based on speculating the speculation. And now we are going to speculate about the speculation on Thursday. So I'm really excited. It's going to be a good time. We'll be getting into that mode. We'll be here out in California. Johnny's going to be traveling from Phoenix to come join me. We're going to be poolside. Well, maybe not on camera, but we will be doing it up. We're going to be watching the draft go down. We're going to see a lot of quarterbacks taken, I'm sure. There's been a lot of talk of that. And, franchises are going to be altered forever, and your minds are going to be altered forever from us talking about those franchises as well. So I'm really excited about it. It's our first time doing a live stream during the NFL draft, so we're pumped on that. And we know Whisper Nation is pumped as well. We've got tons of people in this chat. It was popping off 15-20 minutes ago in the YouTube chat.
Yeah, Travis and I were like, we jumped in here because we were all like doing our pre-show notes, right? And I'm like, I look over and just the chat was just going crazy. So appreciate that. Appreciate all of Whisper Nation in here.
And it should be a great draft. Also a great Thursday draft, great mock draft. Speculatively speaking, of course.
Yeah, of course.
But that's what we do. So let's get to it, guys. We got our Whisper Nation team here. Want to thank everybody for joining along with us live. Jay Blizzy, our Whisper Nation Listener League champion, of course. Muddy Wolfels, that's a funny one. Big Travie, Plugga in the 4 spot, the news at 5. Groggy Style, Death by Rona, the FB Therapist, Cat's Pajamas, Jacob Bley, #1 fan, and Captain Bob joining us for this April 26th mock draft. If you are listening along and you'd like to join us live, make sure you follow on Twitter. Johnny drops the link to our sleeper room every Monday to get into your hands and to be a part of this live draft. If you want to do it along with us, make sure you follow on Twitter. But if you are not following it on this draft and you just want to comment along or you have some questions, make sure you've already liked and subscribed to the YouTube channel. If you haven't already done it, you can do it now. It's not going to have any impact, but it will allow us to grow our channel and do what we love doing. And then you'll be able to catch those notifications of when we're going live, answer any questions on air is what we love to do. So be sure you got all the notifications coming your way so you don't miss any of that action. Today's action is going to be a 12-team PPR Superflex. We got 2 potential quarterback spots. Trav, you mentioned we got a lot of quarterbacks coming in the draft. It should be a really fun one. Anything we need to do before we get this one started, Johnny?
I do not believe so. Once again, 1 quarterback, 2 running backs, 3 wide receivers, a tight end, and then a super flex. So you could put anything in there. Let's begin, shall we?
All right.
It has begun.
The 1-1 spot, man. I love talking about these top 5s, Travie. And, we've had kind of said before, there hasn't been a clear consensus. Our big conversation between Johnny and I last week was about Derrick Henry. And if he deserved to be in that 1-1 spot, I think you can make a good case for it. Johnny might disagree a little, but I want to know what you had to say, Travie. Is there a for sure guy at the top right now, or is it still a little bit of a?
I don't think it is. I think it is your guy. You've got to select your guy. You've got to be comfortable with it. You've got to realize that's you got to be comfortable with if he gets injured. You got to be comfortable with if he underperforms because he's going to live on your roster. You've got to be comfortable with trade value too in that top 5 position, because if you are going to be on the dying ship, you want to try and have a lifeline to get off of that. So I think there's situations where you just got to be ready to abandon ship, and name value is going to help you a lot in that case.
Yeah, it's so true, right? Name value, it has more value than it arguably should,
right?
But it's real.
Oh, the name bias is so strong. It's so strong. That's one of my favorite things to do in the beginning of the fantasy season is, and actually that's when you kind of get the most values, right? Because you can go after those guys that maybe aren't performing, or they are performing, but they aren't a big name yet. And so people aren't believers. And so, and ultimately, guys, like I've been in positions where I've had players like that, right? Where I was like trying to first, in all honesty, the first one that came to mind was like Peyton Hillis. When Peyton Hillis went off, I wasn't even truly a believer. He was on my team and I was starting him every week because he was being a beast. But every week I was trying to trade him away, and no one wanted him because no one believed. But thank goodness nobody ended up trading me, because he ended up leading me to a championship in that league. And, so it's sometimes fantasy football is a wild game.
We're talking about name value on this one. Travi, I took Dalvin Cook at the 1-1 spot, the guy you took here at the 3rd position after Patrick Mahomes was taken in the 2nd spot, following Christian McCaffrey, I should say. But my hesitation on Dalvin Cook, I think he's an elite player. I think he's earned that chip. But I had to ask, has everybody given him that chip? Is he somebody that I'm saying is going to be in that category and move further into that category? Or has the industry and the population at large seen Dalvin Cook as a elite running back, or is he still like an RB1 in most people's minds?
Oh, I think he's there, and that's why you see his ADP but be inside the top 4, right? He's going there because the industry is actually seeing what we've seen over the last 2 years. 14 or more games over the last 2 seasons, multiple 20-point games, especially in PPR. Last year, I just think to that game, and maybe it's a little bit of bias because we are Packers fans, Austin, but I think of that Green Bay game, 4 touchdowns against us in Green Bay, just ravaged the Green Bay Packers defense. And Dalvin Cook's here to play. He's here to stay. And that offense over in Minnesota, very conducive to running and then setting up the play action through there. He's increased his pass catching every single season in the NFL. You like what you see out of Dalvin Cook because he's a complete runner. And he seems to have shaken, I'm hoping, knock on wood, I don't want to bury him here, but he seems to have shaken the injury bug that was the beginning of his season, beginning of his career.
Do you have any concerns with any regression? Do you feel like because he really performed really, really well last year, and I'm not saying that he necessarily can't do that, but do you think the team might regress a little bit?
Team could regress, but the team has been kind of bad the last 2 years, and he's been a top 5 back both those years. So for me, I think for him, he just has to be on the field, because we've seen when he's on the field, he's a game breaker. He reminds me of Adrian Peterson in that way, that Adrian Peterson could win you a game at the running back position. And Cook has shown that in a few games with Minnesota as well.
Do you know who Cook reminds me? Not to spend too much time talking about Dalvin Cook here, because we got so many amazing players here in the first round. But Dalvin Cook to me kind of reminds me. Adrian Peterson's a good comp, and I think Ezekiel Elliott for me is another one in terms of a guy who really is probably the best offensive player on his team. Justin Jefferson might have something to say about that his sophomore season, but right now it's Dalvin Cook, the guy who's done it with multiple guys behind center, multiple coaching staffs. But my question to bring up is, is Dalvin Cook an elite running back? And even the fact that it's not a cemented answer yet, I think works in Dalvin Cook's favor for this upcoming season. I think he wants to show up and show out and have his name be a part of that top elite category. Nobody playing in the NFL doesn't actually want to have their name be amongst the best. And I don't think Dalvin Cook is fully a part of that Derrick Henry, Christian McCaffrey, Alvin Kamara conversation, even though he absolutely deserves to be and needs to be. But I think this year you see a 25-year-old Dalvin Cook. I think he's going to leave a lot on the field. I think he wants to make a big impact, and I think that'll benefit fantasy managers.
Yeah, I agree 100%.
And there we saw Ezekiel Elliott go by Johnny here at the 11th spot. That was the second to last pick here in the first round. Running it down for our audio-only listeners, we had Christian McCaffrey, Patrick Mahomes, Dalvin Cook, Derrick Henry, Josh Allen, Devontae Adams, first wide receiver gone at the 6th spot, Alvin Kamara, Saquon Barkley, Jonathan Taylor, Nick Chubb, Ezekiel Elliott, and Kyler Murray. That makes 3 quarterbacks, Johnny, in the first round. Patrick Mahomes, Josh Allen, and Kyler Murray to close it out. In a PPR Superflex, do you find yourself steering quarterback early, or do you like to see who's available in the later rounds down?
In this draft, I'm gonna wait and see what I can get here.
Mm-hmm.
I'm not gonna select a quarterback early. I have selected quarterback early before because I do sometimes like going with that situation and just seeing how that pans out. It's an interesting way to play the game to me because it's different and I like to challenge myself. But in this situation, I'm not going to do that. I was really happy that Zeke fell to me because I think this is right where he should be going. And I think his value could be a little bit above and he could finish above where he's going right now. So I think the risk is built in with Zeke where you're getting him right now. And the second spot, I was really excited. I am going to go Joe Mixon here in the second round, which might be like kind of wild and crazy jump. But I'm very, very quickly getting on board of the Joe Mixon hype. I think that, he's always had that potential. I know we say that each and every single year, and he's dealt with injuries. I think that recency bias has significantly hindered his value. Now, I could have potentially tried to wait and he maybe would have been there, but they've updated the ADP. And I do think that Joe Mixon should be going in this, second round somewhere. Now, where does he go? I'm not exactly sure, but I wanted to see what it was like to have Joe Mixon in the second round because he is a workhorse running back.
And is that where that comes in? Is you see Joe Mixon maybe as like the last available of the workhorse running backs? We did a lot of talk yet last week about Josh Jacobs and why he's probably not going to be a workhorse back in the same regard. Austin Eckler's never been slotted as a workhorse back. Aaron Jones, we could make kind of a case, but we know that LaFleur doesn't want to see him be a true workhorse either. And Miles Sanders has got a lot of question marks, especially with the new coaching staff in place. Is that why you see Joe Mixon as a tier above?
No, I just think so. There are a lot of guys, and it's basically this is what's interesting about this season, and because of the way the running back room and the way they use the running back has kind of evolved, where we're kind of seeing this like resurgence of a lot of running backs that are like quality running backs in the first couple of rounds. And so it's kind of like the first round where like the first 5 picks to me are all is just like pick your guy that you want to go with. And I'm not saying quite yet because there are like, I like a lot of guys in the second round, like a lot of the second year running backs. I like a lot of those guys and I will probably go with those in a normal draft, to be honest with you. I just wanted to see what it looked like to have Joe Mixon and take him that early and see if it would pan out for me. And if I like that more than, having like a DeAndre Swift or a Gibson. But Joe Mixon, to me, we have to remember how good the Cincinnati Bengals offense was under Joe Burrow. And they're going to either get another offensive, like the best offensive lineman in the draft, or they're going to get, Jamar Chase, which is the best wide receiver in the draft. And so when you have one of those two options, both of those are offensive-minded plays, obviously. And so we already saw that the Bengals were willing to run up the score last year. Like, they wanted to score a lot, partially because they had to, but also they were able to. And I think if you add one of those two weapons, this offense gets even better. And when you have that ability, like Joe Mixon then goes from, being able to, score 10 touchdowns to me to now having the upside of being able to score 16 to 18, which is where you need to be top 5.
Well, I just feel so bad for Rob Shorter here. He says sniped by Game Time, and then he has to hear Game Time go on for 10 minutes about how he sniped him and how good of a pick it was. I mean, come on, poor guy over there in England. All the way. We appreciate you, Rob, jumping in here, just giving Johnny a hard time here. But yeah, I have had the whole evolution with Joe Mixon that Johnny is going through here this offseason, kind of wondering if it was smart to take him or not this year. I do think he improves if he's on the field. I think that's the biggest thing, right? And then
he only played 6 games last year. One of those games, he had 151 ground yards on 25 attempts, 6 yards per carry. He had 6 receptions on 6 targets for 30 more yards. He had 3 total touchdowns that week. It was the only week where he broke 70 yards on the ground, but it shows you just what he's capable of. And it's a team that's going to find a whole brand new identity with such a highly touted quarterback in Joe Burrow and all the new pieces that they got coming in. I think it's a big upside pick at a 24-year-old running back who doesn't have as much tread on the tires as you might think. I think it's just primed to be in a good spot right here looking forward. And we've got a couple more guys that we want to touch in on who have had this happen to him. But I did want to ask, this is actually more of a personal question, Johnny and Travis. In our league of record, we've got an individual who's looking to trade out their first round pick. And Johnny, you talked a lot about the second round and how much you like the second round. And that guy, Nick, he is looking for at least a second rounder and something else. Whisper Nation, I want to open this one up to you as well. What would you give up for another first round pick in a redraft this year with a second rounder being a part of it? Would you give up a second and a third, a second and a 15th? How far would you go to pick up another first round pick this year with a second round pick being a part of it already?
I've been talking with Nick as well. I don't know that I want to give up a lot of the meat that's in there. I don't want to give up a second. I wouldn't want to give up a third, and honestly, even a fourth at this point. It's just there's so much meat in there. From 3 to 7 is such a stacked area of this draft because there's so many. Really, the wide receivers is what does it for me. There's just so many good wide receivers in there. And I've talked with Nick and I've gone back and forth, and I just don't think there's a deal that I'm comfortable doing just to get another guy in the first because, look, I know there's a lot of talent in the first. There's equally as much talent, I think, in the second to fourth range, and I just don't feel comfortable giving up that right now. So I think somewhere past the 5th, and I don't think you're going to get a deal done with something like that. I just don't know why you'd trade out of the first.
I'm kind of leaning with you, man, and I don't think I have like a case of tight sphincter for no reason going on. It just doesn't feel like What do you think, Johnny? I know you're about to pick on this one, but do you have any feelings about this right now?
I think it's a great move. Like, I would do this move if I could trade out of the first round and pick up a second and a fourth, or even a second and a fifth, because to me, there is just as much upside in the second round as there is the first round this year. And, we've seen, last year, and we could say, COVID was a part of it, which it was, but there was like also a part of like, and that is a constant factor, is like the running back position is constantly up and down. Like, it could change next year. There could be 3 new guys up in there, and we wouldn't be surprised, like, of the second year running backs, right? Cam Akers, we think CEH could make that jump. A lot of people think Dobbins. I think Swift could be a top 12 back. So if I can pick up one of those guys, I'm just as confident as I would be in the first round guys, and get, like you said, all those depth pieces of a 5th rounder. Give me that all day of the week and twice on Sunday and 3 times on your draft, because I would do it.
It's just like the upside and the expectations are still so good through like the 4th, 5th, 6th round. I think for me, because the question really was, what would be the deal? Where I'm sitting right now, obviously I'd rather have another first round pick than a second round pick, but I don't think I would do it. I wouldn't feel good about it, at least, unless it was a second and a 7th. I think that's for me where I'm starting to like, it's so much of a dice roll. I'm not actually expecting them to pan out in the 7th. It's if they do, great, and there's a chance of it. But up till there, I'm kind of expecting production out of my first 6 rounds.
Dude, these sleeper ADPs are so wonky now.
I just want to say, Jacob Bley and Captain Bob, who is Rob Shorter over on YouTube, are in the sleeper chat right now saying, let's take a look at Groggy Style's team. Spicy start, they're saying here. Groggy Style chimed in, no tight ends for you guys, YOLO. So, Devontae Adams, Travis Kelce, and George Kittle. Johnny, how are you feeling about Groggy Style's start here?
I do think it's interesting, right? Like, he's taking the 2 best tight ends, and, he can play one of those tight end. Well, I don't know if you'd play him as a Superflex, but I always like this, like, you're taking away another major chess piece. And we saw how big like the gap was from tight end to tight end 1 to tight end 2 last year, and now you're taking away tight end, so like the gap between tight end 1 and tight end 3 is even bigger, and now you have a trade piece as to talk about name value. Everyone loves themselves a George Kittle or a Travis Kelce. If that pops up in your trade DMs, you're instantly going to be interested in whatever trade it is, even if it's like crazy. You're going to be like, oh, I'll entertain this because it's one of those guys' names. So I think a lot of people think that like the team that they walk away from the draft is like the one that they have for the rest of the year. And sure, in this mock draft it is, but like in general, if you see a move, then make that move. And I have no qualms about it. I have no problem with it.
Yeah, it's like if you can fill it in, right? It's one of those things where sometimes you draft such a good team, Travis, that you get all the holes filled for whatever reason, and then you took a little bit of a shot early on, but you were able to cover it up, and you're like, wait, and they've got 2 tight ends? Like to Johnny's point, you're probably not going to be playing George Kittle in your Superflex unless you want to get destroyed by some mediocre quarterback. But even having just him on the bench or as a trade value, it can work out, but we got to see where the rest of the team develops. Because if he's really shallow at another spot, you might have wished you took a tight end and took another player of value. We've got a lot of good ones still available. There's
some wild things going on in this draft. I love it. I love the little bit of anarchy that's going on. The news has Josh Allen, then Dak Prescott. That's how he took back-to-back first round. So we understand, the
and then you got Antonio Gibson in the third. We
got Muddy Wolfels taking Patrick Mahomes, then Trevor Lawrence back, and then DeAndre Swift. And I just think there's some wild things going on in this draft.
Right, we got 2 tight ends taken by one team. We got multiple teams with 2 quarterbanics taken. I'm excited to see Johnny's team where it shakes out now.
You can't mock
Johnny's
mock
over here with 4 running backs, and I think he panic picked Montgomery really quick.
No. I panic picked J.K. Dobbins and didn't see David Montgomery was a little bit lower, and I was like, oh, why I want David Montgomery. And so this is kind of going into what I was saying, like, it might look crazy right now, start like 4 running backs right now, but now I have a trade piece because people always need running backs, and they're high. Like J.K. Dobbins has high trade value.
Fred Beasy over on Periscope, appreciate you watching Twitter Periscope, saying this is a funky draft. LOL. Yeah, no,
dude, you can't mock this mock draft. We say it every
single
week.
This is what happens when we get a full draft. Last mock draft before May, which we will be doing mock draft mania like we did last year, and like the mania is already starting right now.
Oh my gosh, we got 19, 20 people watching right now. Smashing that like button. We appreciate all of you.
If you haven't liked and subscribed, and you're enjoying what you're seeing, or you don't even enjoy what you're seeing, but you for some reason feel a connection to us, hit that like and subscribe button. We do this stuff because we love it, but we love it because of the involvement we get from the community. Whisper Nation growing is our favorite thing. So if you haven't hit that bell, hit that thumb, hit whatever the follow is on whatever social media platform you're working on, we are legitimately going to be very appreciative. You got 3 guys here who will be feeling very good from it. And then we can keep connecting and sharing all this amazing content that's coming at you weekly, such as the live reaction NFL draft on Thursday, 5 o'clock Pacific, 8 o'clock Eastern time. Johnny, Travis, and myself are going to be giving our live reactions, answering questions, and bringing Whisper Nation together for the NFL draft round 1. I am so excited. Let's get it.
Speaking of excited, we're excited that Plugged In with Jay, the fantasy football plug, you follow him anywhere. His stuff will be in our description.
Follow him.
He says, my phone isn't allowing me to draft. It's freezing and then popping up that I drafted Josh Jacobs. This isn't a team I would actually draft. Sorry, guys.
That's what happened to me when I took Damian Harris in the 6th last year in our league of record.
Well, it's funny because Josh wants to know, who would you have taken instead of Jacobs? He said
over here.
He said Jones, or then Plug came back with either Jones or Akers. So, ideal. Yeah, we talked about this where Josh Jacobs should be going much, much later than where he is right now.
Hey, Johnny, so Travis, I want to get your take on this one. I think, Johnny, where'd you put Josh Jacobs? You had him. It was after. It was pretty late.
Oh, it was deep. It was
after Melvin Gordon.
Oh, way after Melvin. Honestly, after Kareem Hunt, I would after Raheem Mostert.
Raheem Mostert is where you said you had him after Raheem Mostert.
Yeah, that's
because
correct.
It was like you expect to have more competition. You don't actually think he's going to be super great, and there could be some just less work and less touchdowns for him is what he kind of needs. Am I hitting that right?
Yeah. Yep.
Yeah, I mean, that's tough. I don't know if I'd put him behind Mostert. Did you say ahead of Mostert or just
behind Mostert?
Yeah,
he hates Jacobs.
Yeah, I don't like what they've done with Jacobs' situation, but the fact of the matter is he will still get volume in that offense because Gruden loves to run the football. It's just like he's not the first round guy, so I'd probably take him after those second round guys, the sophomore running backs, because I think the upside's so much better for those guys. But I'm taking him ahead of guys like Melvin Gordon and again ahead of guys like Raheem Mostert and things like that. So I just think Jacobs' upside is higher than those guys. I think the offense for the Raiders should be better than Denver's offense. Some of the things in play there. Raheem Mostert, I think San Fran's probably going to draft another running back too, and it's always a revolving door over there in San Fran with running backs. So at least I know what I'm getting first and second down usage out of Jacobs. So obviously like him a little more in a standard league for sure.
I had him going right around the Chris Carson mark. For me, I think that's similar question marks, previous production. That's kind of where I felt the most.
Wait, sorry, Travis, repeat where you had him. I was zoned out. I was like looking at my next draft pick for a second. Where did you say?
I think like right ahead of Melvin Gordon and like a Raheem Mostert. Like but see, like this draft is hard to look at right now. So
right, but like you would rather have Josh Jacobs than Melvin Gordon?
Yeah,
really?
Yeah,
really?
Yeah, I would. I don't think it's that crazy.
I would take Melvin Gordon a lot higher though too. I think Melvin Gordon is a big slept-on player. We have a 28-year-old running back who has been out for a lot of years, but just because of different dinks and dunks and weird injuries, but he's still a really productive running back who's actually the best pass catching back on the team. I think they're going to lean on him. I don't think there's a reason for them to not. I mean, if I'm the coach, it's kind of like, let's go all the way with this guy right now while we have him. I think he's I think he's poised for a pretty good season.
There's no more. I mean, there's nobody else there.
Yeah,
they got Mike Boone and who else do they have? Like
they might they'll draft a running back.
They might get a flashy pick, and that really is going to tank Melvin Gordon, which is a great segue into this next question. Johnny, you took David Montgomery in the 4th round. You just had your 5th round pick be Kenny Galladay, but we were talking a lot about David Montgomery last year after an arguably disappointing rookie season. Highly touted prospect, then had a disappointing rookie year. Efficiency-wise, numbers-wise, a disappointing start, but then a phenomenal finish. And the big part to David Montgomery, everyone was expecting the Bears to pick up another running back, and they didn't. And then he was getting this elite volume, and then elite production followed. And now, though, I think everyone's looking at David Montgomery like he's got the role. He's probably like him and Allen Robinson are the only real consistent pieces on that offense are coming in. Is there another running back, though, right now that we're slotted and have high hopes for that on Thursday it could all change because they brought a running back in and dynasty owners are saying, oh, my God, no.
Well, yeah, I mean, I think Chase Edmonds is one of those players.
Ooh, that's a good one.
Right. Oh, my gosh. What are the odds that he took? Unbelievable. Robert Woods, I knew he was going to be there. He was supposed to be there in the 6th. Oh my goodness. Well done.
I just want to take us back to earlier in the draft here. Sniped by game time.
Yeah, you got me. You got me back. I definitely did not think you were going to go down to Robert Woods and take. I thought he says combo was so.
Rob says, look, when Johnny goes low, he goes lower. So
yeah, exactly.
He's going lower than you, man.
To your point, Austin. I think Chase Edmonds, obviously that's going to be a big one. And I honestly if the 49ers draft someone, then they're going to pick up an unrestricted, but like if it's unrestricted, free agent or whatever, I'm not too concerned, but if they draft one, then I would be concerned. I'm trying to think of anywhere else. I mean, Travis doesn't want to say it, but if the Bills draft one of these top running backs, yeah, see you later, Zach Moss. It was nice knowing you. Same with Singletary, though, too. So I can't really, it's not like a huge win, but I'm just saying.
It's not a win at all because you were over there banging the drum last offseason for how good Singletary was, and I don't think either of them are.
I mean, Singletary statistically was pretty baller. He actually, I mean, he was top 50 or top 12 in elusive rating and broken tackles. We always talk about
it's really good for your fantasy football team. The elusive
you guys
points
are
that we all play, that
are,
we all stack up on our rosters. You know, like
you guys almost made me miss up passing on DJ Moore. Unbelievable!
I
know
out
what you guys
Robert
are trying
Listen,
to do.
dude, you're the captain of your own ship, Johnny.
I got him on the wall, bro.
Captain
I know
Bob,
you were trying to do that.
Captain Johnny, captain's Johnny ship.
Yeah, that's right.
Yeah, dude. I know you guys are trying to derail my awesome team. This is one of the best teams I've ever drafted, probably. And you guys are trying to make me screw it up in the 6th round, like usual.
Johnny, that's the only reason I engage with you on anything, is to throw you off whatever you're trying to do. We've been friends for like 15 years. It's what I do every time we talk. It's the foundation of our relationship, my guy.
That's right.
Also, I sorry not to interrupt, but we do have to. This deems a shout out here. We were warned 2 weeks ago, and he showed up last week, and then we celebrated. He said, "Oh no, next week though, I won't be here." It looks like he did. The football therapist logged on work. Well done, sir. Well done on joining the club, man.
Welcome. How's work going?
He's putting in work right now in this draft. Justin Herbert was just picked a couple rounds ago. Terry McLaurin, T. Higgins to round out A.J. Brown. Love that wide receiver core therapist putting together there.
I want to do I'm actually genuinely curious about this. We'll see if it produces good content or not. But we talked about the draft on Thursday and which running backs here would be the most, which ones you as a fantasy manager, let's say it's in Dynasty, let's say you already got this running back on your squad, right? It applied for redraft purposes, but for the sake of this mental exercise, let's pretend that you had these running backs on your Dynasty squad. And I just want to go through the first couple of rounds here and which running back, if your team drafted a running back in the first 2 rounds, would make you nervous. Like for me, if I got Derrick Henry, like I did, and they took I just went blank on his name last year because he didn't play a single game. But when they drafted that running back, you don't care. You know what I mean? Like they take you're like, this is a backup. I'm not worried about Darrynton Evans taken out of Derrick Henry's mouth. But if you got Chase Edmonds and they draft a running back in the first 2 rounds, they're like, you know? Right. So like for me, Christian McCaffrey, am I nervous? I'm not nervous if they take a running back. Dalvin Cook, I'm not nervous. Derrick Henry, I'm not nervous. Alvin Kamara, I might be a little bit nervous if they took a running back in the first 2 rounds and you start seeing this guy as the short yardage, early down work. Would that make you nervous at all?
It would depend on the style of running back. If the running back was well-rounded, I would be a little nervous. If it was more of a type that has been successful with Kamara, like a Latavius Murray or a Mark Ingram, that have kind of boosted Kamara, his efficiency because he's able to not be in there pounding all the time. There's no secret that Sean Payton loves his gadgets. He loves Alvin Kamara, and he loves what's his name, Taysom Hill. He loves getting. He was even very vocal about Michael Thomas before anybody even knew about Michael Thomas. He said, if I played fantasy football, I'd draft Michael Thomas. The year they drafted Michael Thomas, that's what he said. So I think that he loves his guys, and like
Cliff Kingsbury, huh?
Yeah, I think I would be shocked to see a running back. It would just depend on the style, I think, a lot for me.
I'm not nervous if Jonathan Taylor gets a new shiny rookie behind him. Nick Chubb and Kareem Hunt, they got that thing locked down. I'm probably a little nervous if the Cowboys take a running back in the first 2 rounds and I got Zeke.
I don't think
some of the second year guys I'd be a little nervous too. That like CEH, J.K. Dobbins, Swift. If another running back came in, I'd be a little bit nervous for those guys. I'm not saying that's going to happen. I think Baltimore's probably hanging tight because they got Gus Edwards back. They're going to do the J.K. Dobbins thing, but like you could see some situations that would definitely make Johnny pull his hair out if some.
I'll tell you, I will tell you, if Cincinnati does it, that's probably the biggest one. If Cincinnati or the Jags,
yeah, because remember Zach Taylor didn't draft Joe Mixon. You know, he wasn't part of the regime that drafted Joe Mixon. So there's a lot of things like that too.
Yeah, so Cincinnati or Joe or I really hope it doesn't because I do think James Robinson is a really good running back, and the Jags just need so many other pieces that it's like, please just take those draft picks and get the pieces you need and go with James Robinson. But if they draft, I'll tell you, his stock will plummet because
then you also see that they're really trying to go in a different direction.
Right. You bring up the whole, like Travis was saying, right? Like the coaching regime, because Robinson wasn't necessarily their coaching regime. He's just like a really good player. And they were like, they saw that. And so they're like, okay, we can like save money by doing this and we'll go with this guy. And he worked out. And it's just like, please stay with him because, you brought in Carlos Hyde. I'm not worried about that. Some people are. I would tell you don't be. But I really, really hope that they don't spend an early draft capital on. Now they might do, maybe a late day 2 or late day 3.
Maybe they should. They probably should.
Yeah,
just have a strong running
but
game.
Like, just don't be a really good running back is all I ask, So those would probably be my top 2, to be honest with you, would be Cincinnati and the Jaguars.
I'm really vibing the Cincy pick, especially too, because Joe Mixon has been around for he's still young at 24, but he's coming into his 4th year. So it's like they kind of know, and if they pick something early, that's like a decision for me. And that's
of Gio.
Yeah, exactly. And then in that same line of thinking, pretty much every point you brought up, Johnny, Miles Sanders to me would make me very concerned. If I saw the Eagles take a pick in the first 2 rounds, it's like Miles Sanders, we've been hoping. We haven't totally seen it. We got a whole new regime. They didn't pick Miles Sanders. We're taking him early still. That would make me nervous if I was rostering Miles Sanders and they came in.
For sure. Travis, look at I just want to take a second. He's been silent over here, talking about other people's teams and just slowly look at this team. Dalvin Cook, Aaron Jones somehow fouled to him in the second, which is pretty crazy.
Yeah.
And then Russell Wilson as his first QB, and then Mike Evans, Keenan Allen, 2 of the most consistent wide receivers you can probably get. Mark Andrews, and then he just screwed up by getting Juju, so I jinxed him on
Juju
purpose.
is my 3rd wide receiver. I'll take that. I'll take it as my 3rd wide receiver.
I guess in PPR.
In a PPR league.
Okay. Speaking of this one, Juju Smith-Schuster, we haven't given any airtime to this, but really Juju Smith-Schuster not only re-signing in Pittsburgh, but re-signing with the flex, being like, I'm a Steeler for life, baby. And I'm like,
on a 1-year deal. On a 1-year deal. I loved it. I love it. He's like, you're going to have to drag me out of here. It's like they signed you to a 1-year deal, dude. It was team friendly.
And that was their call when why? What?
Also it's like, dude, you realize you gave up a 95% chance of winning the Super Bowl last year because Andy Reid, do you hear what Andy Reid was doing? Dude, Andy Reid was sending him text messages and gifts of the championship trophy. And he's like, you would look so good next to this. And all this stuff, bro, trying to get him to come there, dude. Could you imagine? Why didn't you go there? Why
it makes sense from so many reasons.
That's also how Andy Reid texts his wife. He's like, you look so good to this, only it's a cheeseburger, dude. Right. Her next to a cheeseburger. And he's like,
no, dude, that's when he texts McDonald's, man. He's like, this would look so good.
I like to think of him actually going with the Lombardi GIF for everybody. It's just like his wife. She's like, you want this? You want
yeah.
This? Yeah, but I'm so far. You know what it would take for me to qualify to be on an NFL roster at a player position, Andy? And he's like, but how bad you want it though? How bad do you want it? And you're like,
exactly.
Honestly, not that bad. It's impossible. I don't think it could happen.
I think Juju is a guy that's a safety net for them, and especially for Ben. So let's say if Ben's arm is shot down the field because it just looked like he couldn't be accurate down the field, we know what we got out of Juju. We got a guy that was soaking up middle of the field targets, and I think even a step forward for a guy like Deontay Johnson is fine for Juju, especially in PPR, because he's going to be a guy that soaks up those over the middle stuff for them. So I think Juju got a little bit slept on. Just because he had a bad year. He's not the guy we thought he was going to be when AB left. He's not going to be the number 1 guy and the alpha wide receiver. He didn't get alpha wide receiver money. And he's going to be a guy that's going to soak up targets for Big Ben because Big Ben knows him and loves him.
So let me ask you this, Travis, and this is from a strategy perspective, right? And I just want to bring that because that's what we like to talk about. Why not instead of I get that the Juju perspective, right? The potential is there. I do get that. But why not with that 3rd pick there, 3rd wide receiver, go with a guy like Tyler Lockett, which I totally understand.
I looked at Tyler Lockett
just because the upside seems to be Tyler Lockett. He'll give you twice a year. He's going to give you 40 points and even more in a PPR league. So that's just.
I say this, Tyler Lockett is never going to be the number one if DK Metcalf is playing on the same field. He doesn't have the physicality. They're in two different leagues. It's junior varsity and varsity. It's so far apart. But Juju Smith-Schuster can still be the number one wide receiver in Pittsburgh. Terry McLaurin is older than Juju Smith-Schuster is. Juju Smith-Schuster is still only 24 years old, but he's got a ton of NFL miles under his belt. And I think like a 24-year-old is still going to develop, and it's just if he wants it. It's like this dude has invested himself in a lot of other platforms, like in social media. And I know we laugh about that, but if somebody's able to create all these revenues and prosperity in their life from these areas, and maybe he's taken a little bit of focus off of the football side of it, but he's recommitting to Pittsburgh, and there's still a lot of room to improve your game at this point. He's a big physical specimen.
I think
Deontay Johnson and Claypool, like they're good, but they're not insane.
I mean, those weapons are definitely better than just going against DK, right? We know how many targets that like DK and Deontay Johnson probably garnish like the same amount of targets.
I don't care. It's like, I'm talking about who do you want to take in a fight.
Why do I care about who's going to win in a fight? I'm playing fantasy football.
Because that's going to help translate into how well they do against tight cornerback matchups. And I'm talking about it just like on that level of their potential. Like Chase Claypool and Deontay Johnson don't hold a flame to DK Metcalf's potential.
I'm not saying they do. I'm talking about targets.
I mean, as far as an alpha wide receiver, like you could definitely make the case that Claypool's probably a better build for a alpha wide receiver than Juju. But I just want to go back to the point. Johnny, you were asking about whether I wanted Tyler Lockett or him. I looked at Tyler Lockett. I also looked at OBJ. That was the other guy I was looking at. But as far as upside, I went with a guy I knew was probably going to stay on the field, a guy that I knew had his quarterback's trust. And I think that's where I went with Juju there. And then Tyler Lockett's just like the sporadicness. I love how you're like setting me up for Tyler Lockett, and then you've spent all offseason so far telling me how bad of a pick Tyler Lockett is. But then you're going to put me on camera and ask me why I didn't take Tyler Lockett here.
I'm just saying, man. No, from a strategic standpoint.
No,
right?
I did not since like 5 years.
I went floor instead of ceiling, and maybe that's wrong in your third wide receiver spot, but that's just kind of what I was going for there. I got nervous. You started talking about me on camera. What I'm really pissed off about is I probably should have went quarterback, because now I just watched this incredible run happen in these last two rounds. First, it started by Jay Blizzy because I was going to take Ryan Tannehill instead of Juju. Then that's why I took Juju, because I was on tilt. Just bottom line. We could spend 20 minutes.
That's a fair
pick it was, but that's what happened.
Trav, you bring up a really good point there of in these like later rounds here. Are you playing for floor? Are you playing for ceiling? And like for me, I like to play for the ceiling, and sometimes it helps me, sometimes it hurts me. But I'm looking at these guys here and in this spot, and like a DJ Chark, an Odell Beckham, Cortland Sutton, even. Are these guys, is their upside worth pulling the trigger on, Johnny? Or is this just like fool's gold? It was shiny. It's not valuable, though.
Oh, I think there's tremendous value here. That's why, like, I'm even saying, like, in that conversation we had before, when we were talking about, like, what you would give up with the first, like, if someone was even to say like a 6th rounder or 7th rounder at this point, I mean, obviously we'll have to wait, but like Cortland Sutton to me is a huge, a guy that I think he will be this year's Will Fuller. I think that he'll have a monster bounce back year. I think he'll be a wide receiver, a top 15 wide receiver, and you're getting him this late. I mean, like, and you said it too, like DJ Chark, OBJ, Deontay Johnson, like these are all pretty, like they're going to be wide receiver 2s with wide receiver 1 upside weeks. And to me, like if you're giving me that, like an extra pick at that as well, and now I could get 2 of these guys. So now I can like go back and forth if I need to and play the matchups, which I love to do and which we like give recommendations on every single week. So we'll tell you which ones to play. To me, that's where I would go. That's why I just think that there's a lot of value right now. And of course, these are going to move up and move down and shake out and depend on, what league you're in. But like I said, you can take advantage of a lot of these pieces.
Definitely. And we got Travis Garden jumping in saying, I had Lockett on my team last year. Worst decision I ever made. Well, this guy makes great decisions then, because this is the number 11 wide receiver in standard, the number 8 wide receiver in PPR. Now, maybe he traded for him week 12 when the guy in standard didn't get above 6 points for the rest of the season, then maybe there. But I think that one's more of like a painful one than it is, at least if you draft him, because he did have such a phenomenal start.
Yeah, that's like where it all comes. He's tremendous. He's a tremendous boomer bust type of wide receiver. Like he scores. He's like Amari Cooper, where he scores 60%, 55 to 60% of his fantasy production for the entire year comes from 2 games. And so that's where that's where it's like you can't look at, like, if you look at his consistency rating, like it's low, right? Because all of his fantasy production is from that. But if you look at it, it's like, oh, Tyler Lockett finished as a top 12 wide receiver. That's awesome. It's like, not on a week to week, because you're better off like playing just a matchup. And so I do get it from that standpoint. And that's what it's like kind of trying to draw out of Travis a little bit earlier, not to keep drawing on about Tyler Lockett. But I just think that, like I totally get not like pushing on that difficult decision to somebody else and being like, I'll just risk not playing against that person when they go off, but
I'll tell you what, though, Tyler Lockett's upside is top 5. And I think that he could be top 5, even with, like, I think DK and Tyler could end up in like top 7 together. And that's only if they continue to throw the ball at a tremendous rate and they kept up the pace like they had last year.
Well, they're in an interesting situation, right? We did a lot of the breakdowns on our weekly breakdown, and make sure you've liked and subscribed, not just now in the preseason, but during the regular season is where we really hit you with a ton of breakdown and put in a tremendous amount of work behind the scenes to break it all down, to give some insights that you might not be catching from some of your other platforms of choice. But we saw Tyler Lockett and DK Metcalf number 1 and number 2 in wide receiver snap percentage through like the first several weeks. It was crazy. It was like 99.7% and 99.4% for these guys. They just always run 2 wide receiver sets, and Russell loved throwing to his wide receivers and
deep. And that's the thing we can't talk about enough with Russell, is that when he throws, it's just so profitable.
It's like
so
Bitcoin,
profitable.
Dude.
No, I mean, I'm just saying, like, yeah, exactly. He throws the lollipop, as what's his Chris Collinsworth loves to say. But I think that's the situation here is like, yes, Lockett is going to be up and down, but I think to Johnny's point, like looking back as your third wide receiver, if you've got a guy that's like a Will Fuller was in Houston, or you got a guy like Tyler Lockett, or what we hope Marquise Brown could be, a guy that could really bend, Deshaun Jackson back in the day, a guy that can really win you the week by going deep and getting those targets. That's a perfect third wide receiver to have.
So that's who we saw there, Tyler Lockett and the Juju Smith-Schuster conversation here in that 7th round, where it ended with Cortland Sutton. Quick rundown of the 8th round there from Carson Wentz, DJ Chark, Odell Beckham, Zach Wilson, Deontay Johnson, Todd Gurley, Jarvis Landry, Tua Tagovailoa, Ben Roethlisberger, Baker Mayfield, Trey Lance, rookie quarterback, and Chase Claypool. In that round, Travi, who is catching your eye as having the most upside in that 8th round? If you're playing for upside alone, who are you looking for? And then if you're playing for floor in that 8th round, all the positions, who has the highest upside, who has the highest floor for you, Travi? And then I want to ask that to Johnny, who's making his 10th round pick.
All the positions. This one's tough. I'd say it's probably, I like Chase Claypool a lot as far as upside is concerned. That guy's a guy that gets down the field in a hurry. If Ben can actually be accurate down the field, you're looking at a guy that could be not DK Metcalf maybe, but he could be up there as far as an alpha wide receiver if things got going the right way. But I also love the Zach Wilson pick. And I think as far as upside is concerned, most upside, highest ceiling, Zach Wilson is a guy that, Chris Sims, who spent time in the NFL, has a father who was in the NFL, and now scouts NFL quarterbacks, said that Zach Wilson's the better prospect than Trevor Lawrence, and that Zach Wilson is actually doing Mahomes and Rodgers type things on the run. And so I've been infatuated with Wilson since Sims has said that, and I've been rewatching tape, and he's just been so fun to watch. So I would argue that he maybe has the highest ceiling of all the positions in that round, because this is it's a quarterback driven league. And if you can come in and be the guy, obviously we've not seen that out of a quarterback, but we did have, seasons like RG3 that kind of shook the world, and Lamar Jackson, that was obviously in his second year, but his first year as the full-time starter. So we could see crazier things have happened. I think that ceiling exists.
What about you? What about you, Johnny? Highest ceiling there in that 8th round.
I do love Zach Wilson, but I don't know if we see that year one. Potentially, I mean, we saw it with Mahomes and Aaron Rodgers, so it could be potentially, right? But to me, I think Tua Tagovailoa has the biggest ceiling in that round, and I'll tell you why. Because
the highest floor for me in that round.
He does also have the highest floor, but he also has the highest ceiling for me as well, because you look at what they got, and they brought in Will Fuller, who is the deep ball threat now, and that's what they really need. Like, Tua's actually really good. He's actually pretty accurate with the deep ball. The fact they just didn't have people that were capable. Like, they were running Mike Gesicki, which Mike Gesicki, talented and super athletic tight end, but like they're having him run the go routes. Like, it's like, okay, like we see, now if they have a Will Fuller, who is one of the best, deep ball specialists we have. And now you can put, you have pieces around him like Parker. There's rumors
Preston
like,
Williams.
Preston and Preston Williams. There are rumors that they could potentially be in the Kyle Pitts, draft pick there. So you're pairing him with Mike Gesicki. That would
you're
be
getting Madden team status. They pick
right,
up Pitts
exactly.
in 2 years. That's Madden team. Will
or
Fuller,
they get
Parker,
or Jamar
Tua.
Chase. There are rumors that they could land Jamar Chase, and so
I've seen Jamar Chase going to them in multiple mocks.
Yeah, and so like that's now his third wide receiver, who everyone's been saying is like one of the best wide receivers they've seen in a while. Like, all of that is like, okay, now I'm really starting to see, and we know how accurate he is. We've also seen what Tua has done when he has talent, because guess what? That's the funny part of all this is Tua, when he was coming out, the whole complaint about him was like, oh, he went to Alabama and they have all these, look at their wide receivers. They're all amazing wide receivers. And it's like, okay, now look at Miami's situation. Tell me which wide receiver you don't want to have, or which, position that he has as a weapon now that you wouldn't want to have. And especially if they get like a good running back, that's where I really want a good running back to go. And so I just think that he has that rushing cheat code ability. He's super accurate. I just think that he could come out of nowhere and be that top 5 quarterback this second year.
I think that's a great breakdown, Johnny. And I want to just hear from the rest of the rounds as we keep this one going. Highest ceiling and then highest floor. It's a little bit loose with the take here, but as we move all the way through this, I want us to start highlighting which players people are really standing out with. We all know that when you're actually on the clock drafting for the real thing, when you make your selection and the rest of the draft goes, oh, I wanted that guy. I kind of want to sample what you guys are saying right now of who stands out, who makes the light bulb turn on and be like, ooh, I'm getting excited about this player here. So we heard about Zach Wilson and Tua and Chase Claypool here. In the 9th round, we saw Tyler Boyd off the board first, followed by Noah Fant, Mecole Hardman, T.Y. Hilton, Will Fuller, James Conner, Myles Gaskin, Mike Davis, Derek Carr, Kirk Cousins, Kenneth Gainwell, and Robbie Anderson, taken by Captain Bob to close out the 12th round. Big Travie here is going to be picking first in the 11th. So I want to ask Johnny, in this 9th round, which players here stand out as either having the highest ceiling or highest floor, or both? Which guys are grabbing your eye here in the 9th round?
So I'm glad that you came right back to me, because this same topic, same. You also talked about, to loop in a theme that we did earlier, you were talking about, players that have the most to lose, depending on a running back landing there. Yeah. And I think the other one in this 9th round, and I think his value could go up certainly if Miami does not draft a running back, but that's Myles Gaskins, right? Myles Gaskins was a very good running back when he was playing, and they were going to Myles Gaskins, right? Mm-hmm. Like, he was getting the workload. He was the workhorse there, and he was scoring low end RB1 numbers. And so if Miami does not draft a running back in the draft, or a top 4 rounds, they don't take a running back, then that would signify to me, that Gaskins is going to be the guy, and then we could see a huge rise in Gaskins' value. That's the only problem with Gaskins with me right now, is like, I think he's super talented and he showed that he could do it. It's just I don't believe that Miami believes he's the guy yet. And but if
time
they
you
show
say
me that,
Gaskin, you say Gaskin like I'm sorry, this is way off.
Oh,
topic.
okay,
Every
okay.
time you say Gaskin, I think of Eminem like freestyling because Chris D'Elia was like making fun of him, like says napkin, Gaskin, Anakin, or like whatever. But I was just like, every time you keep saying that, that's what I think. But yeah, I agree with Gaskin. I think that's a great pick. I also
Huge
love
floor play if they don't pick up a running
Right.
back in the draft, right? Because whether it was Salvin Ahmed, whether it was Breda, whether it
Right.
was pick a concession stand worker, Miles Gaskin was the best running back over there.
Mhm.
And you might have, as Johnny pointed out with Tua and all the receivers they brought on, Miami was already a sleepy good team. This year they could be a sleepy, like exciting team. And if Miles Gaskin is the lead dog in the running back position, and you get him this late, like that could be really nice, a really solid RB2 for you.
I think another high floor guy here is Kirk Cousins in that 9th round. It's been a guy that's kind of flirted with, top 12 every time he's, kind of been there. He could actually just be a guy that's very consistent for you as your second QB or third QB. Love that. Highest ceiling, though, I really love Robbie Anderson's ceiling in Carolina. He's just been shown that he did really well in that system last year.
Reunited.
And if he gets reunited and Sam Darnold is the guy and Darnold's just pushing the ball down the field to him last year. I know that was kind of the DJ Moore role for that offense last year. They kind of reverse roles. So I like his ceiling, but Noah Fant's ceiling is also extremely high in the 9th round. If that guy can get it all together, stay on the field, we know how athletic of a tight end he is and how special he is going down the seam. If Drew Lock and he stay healthy and connect, that could be really big.
Travis, the thing I keep forgetting, and I saw it popped up on Twitter, and that's what reminded me. But Robbie Anderson and Sam Darnold played together in New York, and they had that relationship where like he was their deep ball guy.
Oh yeah,
and they were hooking up for that. He was like a top
when that news broke.
Until they got Mona.
I was trying. Yeah, that's well, who knows, but could be. That was what we were saying when the news broke, or at least that's what I was trying to say is like, I think Robbie Anderson, if Darnold is the guy, it's going to be hard for Darnold to not want to go to Robbie Anderson consistently. He knows him. That's just kind of how it is. But I do think I love DJ Moore as well. I just think Robbie Anderson in the 9th is a great deal.
Mm-hmm.
So then coming back in the 10th, Devontae Parker took the first pick off the board in the 10th round, followed by Jameis Winston. Johnny took, and then Sam Darnold, aforementioned Cam Newton, Mike Gesicki, Austin Hooper by Death by Rona, Deshaun Watson, followed by Curtis Samuel, Mark Ingram, David Johnson, Devin Singletary, and Deebo Samuel closed out the 10th round by Jay Blizzy. Same question here. Who are guys that are raising the ceiling that you're getting kind of excited about, and other guys who could be staples on your squad with that higher floor? Johnny's making his pick, so the question comes to you, Big Travie, in that 10th round. Who is raising the ceiling for you, and whose floor play do you like the most?
We're going to omit Deshaun Watson because I just don't think he plays this year. And I think, it'd be easy to kind of say if he's on the field, he'd be a high ceiling. So I'm going to omit him from that round, just in theory. Yeah. Deebo Samuel for me is a high ceiling guy. I know we love Brandon Ayuk. We probably think Brandon Ayuk's going to be the guy, but Deebo Samuel is a guy that was Brandon Ayuk's role before Brandon Ayuk.
And it could be. Like, I'm a Brandon Ayuk reliever too, but Deebo Samuel could be the guy. I don't think he will be, but he could be.
Yeah. And so I think for me, Deebo Samuel's one of the bigger ceiling plays in this round. I also believe that Johnny's pick of Jameis Winston is a high ceiling pick.
Yeah.
This is a guy that could easily be a top 6, top 5 guy. If all things click in New Orleans, he finally gets his vision right, finally stops doing the stupid crap off the field and changes and is a better person, we hope. But either way, he's in a loaded roster in New Orleans with the best play caller of his career. So that's something that he, if he is the starter. And then, for floor play, I like the Devontae Parker pick. I think a lot of people are sleeping on Parker with the addition of Will Fuller.
He's falling down though, right? That risk is built in now.
Yeah. So now you love where you get him right there because I think he's going to be a nice play. And I love the Curtis Samuel. I want to go back to ceiling. Sorry. I did just notice Curtis Samuel again. Curtis Samuel's another high upside pick. Yeah. In Washington. Linked back up with that Scott Turner coaching staff, linked back up with Ron Rivera. I think there's some good things at play there. And then you get a guy like Ryan Fitzpatrick chucking the ball around. Curtis Samuel could be a sneaky good late round pick.
And to mention that could really benefit Terry McLaurin as well.
Yeah.
We've heard other NFL cornerbacks talk about how good Terry McLaurin is, and they just didn't have another wide receiver to focus on from the defensive side. So he gets a lot of attention from the defense, and he still produces at a high rate. So Curtis Samuel, he demands a look from opposing defenses. I like what that could do for both of their production. I love how you brought in the connection to the play callers and the schemes there. How about you, Johnny? You got to make Marquise Brown, nice high ceiling play there.
I couldn't believe he was still available. Well, and I also saw that I only had 3 receivers yet still because I've been but it's been working out. I love how my team is coming up. But
I love that spot for Marquise Brown too. I know none of us here are big believers, but we all know the probability is real, and he's still slotted to be, and he could still be, and he's still so young, and blah 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 blah. He could be.
I honestly think that if they do get another wide receiver in there in the draft, I think it could really help him because he won't see the number 1 coverage anymore. He's a speedster guy. And I think that that's where he could see his most potential. And we did see him be a wide receiver 2 down the stretch. So the upside, in the 12th round, like I said, I had to, I'm not going to lie. I had to look and make sure it said Baltimore next to his name because I thought it could potentially. I was like, where's another Marquise Brown? On what other team? Because I didn't think he would be available this late. But back to what we were saying earlier. It's funny when you brought up the Jameis Winston thing because I was going to talk to you guys about it but Travis was deep in a point, so I didn't want to interrupt. But the Jameis Winston thing is super interesting to me because obviously if you're going in a little bit early, we might not know who the quarterback is going to be to start. But I kind of like whoever is, whether it's Taysom Hill or Jameis Winston. Hopefully, but that, like you said, that offense to me is super intriguing. And so, especially in a 2 quarterback league, I'm definitely interested in grabbing whoever that starting quarterback is. Mm-hmm. And so it started to get thin. So that's where I went. But I would also say that, I really love Deebo Samuel. I think that he is a reincarnation of oh my gosh, I am blanking on his name, and this is horrible. Played for the Cardinals. Anquan Bolden. Thank you.
Yeah. I didn't even know you were going to go there, dude, but that was the comp that came to mind for me too. So it must be something.
Sorry, I think my mic is cutting out or something. Sorry.
That's how good the comp was.
That's how good the comp
right?
is.
Exactly.
Yeah.
It's just but perfect.
This is how LeBron James ended up in Space Jam.
Exactly. Thank you so much for Anquan Bolden was exactly the name I was looking for. And when you have a guy like that in a system that really caters to that type of player, we saw it and that's the thing that I love about we know this system, right? And we know that Brandon Ayuk, we are big fans of him, and we think that he will be very successful and he'll be an awesome wide receiver this year. But think of it like the Cardinals were that year, and I think that both Ayuk and because of how much of a yak monster Deebo Samuel is, Deebo can also get over 1,000 yards. And so I think that they're both going at tremendous values in drafts. I love scooping up either one, whichever one I can get, because I honestly feel like they both could be wide receiver 2s for you, or maybe one could be a low end wide receiver 1, and you could roll the dice on whoever you think that could be. But I like their system. I like how they get their wide receivers open, and I want the guy that looks like a bulldog to me and does yak stuff.
I like that.
Not to speak too much on the Niners wide receivers, but I think one of the things that would kind of dissuade you in picking them is we don't know what's going to happen at QB. It looks like they're going to take one. They're going to draft a QB, but they've also said that Jimmy Garoppolo could be the guy. I don't really care. Shanahan has shown CJ Beathard, Nick Mullins, these guys can come in and still operate the offense and get these guys the ball. And so it doesn't matter. Mac Jones, Mike Jones, Justin Fields. I don't care whoever's in the lineup. Yeah, I could go out there. Austin, I know he played at Tempe Prep. He was slinging it around he could get
Austin
back
was
in there.
Good, dude.
Yeah.
Austin was good.
Oh, dude, I watched the tape, dude. I've been scouting Austin since he was in Pop Warner, dude.
Just shout out to the O-line. Shout out to the O-line. I've been blessed to play behind a fortress my entire career.
And you got the joy of throwing to Chris Thomas, who's probably the greatest tight end we've ever seen in Tempe Prep history.
Well, Greg Olsen, dude, he became such a
exactly. Yeah. No, but I think
never seen him in the same room.
Yeah, have never, not yet, not once. But to that point, I think it doesn't matter who's at QB. And so you can take those guys with confidence. And I think both could be profitable if all things clicked for them. If Jimmy Garoppolo had a second coming, or if whoever they draft actually picks up the playbook fast enough, you like what you see out of that system. You buy into the system for both those wide receivers.
We've had a lot of conversation generate out here in the 10th round, specifically around the upside. And I think you see a lot more of that upside point come in as you get later on in the draft, which is what we usually advise you aiming for later on in your draft. Take those flyers who have a chance to be real. Don't grab somebody that might get a little production, but not enough to actually win you games, and they just take up a roster spot. But I do want to note that you've got in the 10th or 9th picks in the 10th round, you got the starting running back for Houston. You got Mark Ingram or David Johnson. It's probably not a great situation, especially if Deshaun Watson isn't involved, but you might have a starting running back who's going to be getting goal line work and be getting at least 15 touches a game. So in that 10th round, I wanted to call out probably David Johnson over Mark Ingram, but one of those guys is going to be the lead dog for Houston, and that's worth the roster spot.
So funny. You're like, oh, we advise to go for the lottery tickets, the upside in the later rounds. And we definitely do. And then I was sitting here looking at my 10th and 11th round picks. I'm like, David Johnson and Jared Goff. That is gross.
highest ceiling ever.
Yeah, that's like Austin Powers when the guy's playing blackjack and he's like, sir, you have 19. Hit.
Yeah. I also like to live dangerously.
So you bust. Sir, you have 9.
Yeah.
I also like that.
It's just like I got a little bit wonky on the QB, the second QB. So I went with Baker and then Goff, because I was just sitting there thinking, like, Goff's done top 12 stuff in the Ram system. Of course, we know that's a better system. But also Stafford's done top 12 stuff in that Detroit system with worse weapons. So that's kind of my thinking there is, like, I think Goff can still get it done as opposed to some of the other guys. Yeah.
I don't think Goff popping off would be as surprising as the sun rising in the west, setting in the east, but it could happen. Yeah. Shout out to Hard Knocks if y'all know what I'm talking about there. But as this draft here is coming to the end, I want to give Whisper Nation a heads up. We're going to do draft grades a little bit differently than we've done them before. Where you tell us on between Johnny and Travi's team who you think did the best. We don't need to spend a lot of time belaboring our thought process. We share our thoughts a lot on this. Let us know who you think did the best. What we're going to do then too is run through each member of Whisper Nation's team and highlight who their starting roster would be. Each one of us is going to handle a chunk, and then each one of us is going to announce who we thought did the best from the names that we ran down. So Big Travi's going to do 4 of them. We got 10 folks working here outside of Travi and Johnny. So we'll have Big Travi take on 4. Johnny's going to do 3, and I'll do 3 as well. We'll let you know who we thought, whose team we liked the most of those teams we personally ran down. And then let us know in the chat who you think did the best. And we'll see you next time. We get to play this game all over again. But before we jump into that, I did want to say with our last 3.5 rounds that we got going here, or this is how we just take off the round 14 in rounds 11, 12, and 13, opening it up, the same conversation we've done for the last few. Who do you think has the highest ceiling and maybe the highest floor as these picks are going crazy fast? To close it out, Johnny, is there somebody in these last couple of rounds that stands out to you as a real potential upside play we should be keeping our eyes on? You grabbed Marquise Brown, and we saw Cass Pajamas shout out that I really wanted Hollywood. So you got a little love there.
Yeah. I got another snipe on the day. I mean, there are a couple of guys and that I would definitely point out, but
I mean, some of these, too, right?
Those ones are obvious because once we know landing spots, we'll know a little bit more clear where they should go. But the 2 that are on a team right now that I think are very, very interesting are Jalen Reagor and Laviska Shenault at the wide receiver position. I think that both of those players are in a position, like, we have to remember last year. I know we're very excited about this year's draft and where these rookies could go and what their potentials are. Sure. But we do have these 2 guys that were taken in last year's draft very high, and they were highly touted coming out of college. They were both, top top 10 wide receivers coming out at their position. And so they are both in a position where I think their position could improve, right? Their quarterbacks will be better. Their offensive schemes could be better. And so I think that they have a tremendous side, and they didn't break out their first year, which we saw a lot of.
But they didn't look bad either.
Right, exactly.
Like
but that's we also have to remember, like, that's normal. Like we've been very blessed and it's spoiled over the last few days or last few years of getting these guys. What
Henry Ruggs
it's admirable. It's admirable that you answered those two. I think they're great. I love it. They're both on my Dynasty team. I appreciate that. But you can't even hide. The right answer here is obviously the guy you drafted in Marquise Brown has the highest ceiling. And then in the 11th, Damian Harris going at 11-8.
That was the running back. Starting running back again.
Damian Harris, man, is a guy that we just got to be like talking about. Going in the 11th is a guy that could really, not to spend too much time, we get into the grades, but New England has been one of the top 5 rushing teams for the last 10 years, basically. And if you could get a guy that's going to be that guy, Damian Harris in the 11th is a steal.
I had to let you talk. I had to let you grab a guy. I couldn't take them all.
I appreciate that.
But I agree with that. I do agree.
Well, another mock draft is in the books, ladies and gentlemen. It's been a great one here with our 12-team Superflex PPR. And thanks for Whisper Nation hanging along with us. It's been a fun ride. If you haven't hit the thumbs up button, the like and the subscribe, before you log off, make sure you hit that thumbs up. Please hit the like and subscribe button. Reminder, Thursday, we're going to be doing our reaction to the first round of the NFL draft on Thursday, 5 o'clock Pacific time, 8 o'clock Eastern. And if you've liked and subscribed, you'll get the notification for that. So easy peasy. There we go. But now, gentlemen, we're going ahead and run it down, right?
All right. Yeah,
let's do it.
We'll do them sequentially here. So we'll have Travi, you want to go ahead and take 4, Johnny take 3, and then I'll take 3 here to close it out.
Yeah, right. Sounds good. So I have Jay Blizzy, Muddy Wofels, the Plugga, which is obviously Jay from the Fantasy Football Plug, and then the news. So we'll start with Jay Blizzy here. Drafted Christian McCaffrey, then Lamar Jackson, Cam Akers, followed by Darren Waller, Julio Jones, Cooper Kupp, Ryan Tannehill as a second quarterback, then continue to stack up those wide receivers. Chase Claypool, Tyler Boyd, Deebo Samuel. Third quarterback was Mac Jones. Let's see if he goes to San Fran. That would be a nice pick if he did as your third quarterback. Tony Pollard, I think, is a nice upside pick. Darrell Henderson as well. And then Jared Cook. Not a lot of people talking about Jared Cook, but Jared Cook will be replacing Hunter Henry in that Chargers lineup. As a guy, Herbert was not shy of the tight end. I think 93 targets over to Henry there. So could absorb quite a bit of targets for a late round tight end. That's not bad at all. Let's see here. Then we had Muddy Wofels, who was the next guy. He went with Patrick Mahomes, then Trevor Lawrence. So he definitely likes the Trevor Lawrence prospect. DeAndre Swift, Travis Etienne, Jamar Chase, Jalen Waddle, Jerry Jeudy, Trey Lance. So he really, really went heavy with rookies here. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 out of his last 6 picks were rookies. If we knew where they were going, I'd be able to grade this a little bit better. Noah Fant, Devin Singletary, Trey Sermon, Drew Lock, and then Chuba Hubbard and Christian Kirk to round it out. Do love the stack of Patrick Mahomes and Trevor Lawrence. I do think Trevor Lawrence could make some damage, like have good games this year in that Jaguars offense. Don't know where Travis Etienne is going, but he's a special playmaker, and I love DeAndre Swift too. So some things to work with on that squad. Jay told us that he says Plug's team was trash. He's just telling himself that and letting everybody know that. But he had Derrick Henry, auto-drafted Josh Jacobs like he talked about, DeAndre Hopkins, and then Justin Fields is his first QB. He must love Justin Fields going to San Fran or was still on auto-draft. I think either way, you could make a case for Fields, but that seems a little high to me. Allen Robinson, Kyle Pitts, then Ronald Jones, followed by Ben Roethlisberger as his second QB, hoping that Ben's arm is going to be completely back to normal this year after a year of tossing the ball around. T.Y. Hilton, Mark Ingram, then Dallas Goedert, Cole Beasley, Sammy Watkins, and Zach Ertz. And then Plug is letting us know that he did auto-draft for Fields. So that makes a lot of sense. He might be out of the running for best team out of these first 4. And we will round that out with the news. He's our fourth and final team that I'm going to be grading today. We got Josh Allen and Dak Prescott as his QB stack in this Superflex league. Antonio Gibson, then CeeDee Lamb. Man, that is a hard hitting top 4. I like that. Javonte Williams, probably my favorite running back prospect, just out of excitement alone. I know the other guys are more highly touted, but I love Javonte Williams' tape. Brandon Ayuk, another top high upside guy here. TJ Hawkinson, Tua Tagovailoa. This is a quarterback after Johnny's heart there. Will Fuller as well, continuing that Miami love for Johnny. He must be hoping that Johnny graded his team here. Curtis Samuel, then Laviska Shenault, followed by Terrence Marshall, rookie wide receiver there. Let's see what else. Michael Carter and Ryan Fitzpatrick to round it out. Honestly, love all 4 quarterbacks. I don't know that I would have needed to draft them all there. And I think that you could have sacrificed some other players here. I think the Dak Prescott, Josh Allen stack was great. Love that it's top heavy. But I don't think that's going to beat out Jay Blizzy for my favorite team of these 4. And when I'm looking at it, he's just got the running backs. He's got 2 quarterbacks I really love, and Lamar Jackson and then Ryan Tannehill. I love the wide receiving core with depth there. Deebo Samuel is his 5th wide receiver. Love that. Julio Jones, despite the trade rumors, love wherever he would land up, I would imagine, because he's going to command targets. I just really love Jay Blizzy's team, and I think it's A- material there.
All right. That was I like that rundown there. That was
yeah.
All right, so I'm up. I got to compete with Jay Blizzy's team, huh? Or my section of guys here. All right, so let's we'll break this down here. First off, we have Groggy Style. He was at the 106 spot. He took Devontae Adams. In the second round, he took Travis Kelce, and then in the third, he took George Kittle. So we talked about this move and how that potential, what it could pan out. Was it a good move? Well, we'll see. Took Melvin Gordon in the 4th, Joe Burrow in the 5th. Devonta Smith is his second wide receiver. Kenyon Drake in the 7th, Jarvis Landry in the 8th, and followed by James Conner. So he's taking some dart throws on the second running backs here. Took Deshaun Watson in the 10th as his second quarterback. Jalen Reagor in the 11th, Corey Davis in the 12th, James White in the 13th, and then Jimmy Garoppolo in the 14th. I think you'll definitely have to do some trading, that for sure. I think that there is some concerns there with this team, especially with that second quarterback there, and Deshaun Watson. I don't expect to play, so I won't be drafting him on any teams. All right, we'll go Death by Rona. Shout out to him. He was in our listener league last year. He made it. He was at the 107 spot drafting. He took Alvin Kamara, followed by Miles Sanders, then Michael Thomas. I love those first 3. Then Aaron Rodgers was his first quarterback in the 4th round, followed by Adam Thielen as his second wide receiver, then Tom Brady as his second QB. Very solid first 6 rounds. He grabbed Tyler Lockett in the 7th, a very nice upside play at the wide receivers 3 spot. So he did what we were talking about. And then Todd Gurley, Myles Gaskins in the 8th and 9th. We'll see how that Myles Gaskins pick plays out. Austin Hooper is his tight end. Then Le'Veon Bell in the 11th. Jamison Crowder, Michael Pittman, and MBS to round out his draft. And then FB Therapist is the one that comes in here as my 3rd team that I'll evaluate here. And he is at the 108. Shout out to him. I'm just going to spoil a little bit. Like, he killed this. Saquon at the 108, Austin Eckler at the 205 spot, AJ Brown in the 3rd round. We love this pick. We think he could be a top 5 wide receiver this year. Then he grabs Justin Herbert in the 4th. I think that's a good time to grab his first quarterback. Then he follows that up with his 2nd and 3rd wide receivers, which would be Terry McLaurin and T. Higgins. 2 wide receivers I think have tremendous upside this year. And then his second quarterback is Matt Ryan, who's more consistent and sturdy than Matt Ryan. So that's your super flex. You like that. Takes Deontay Johnson in the 8th. We love Deontay like that, and that's your 4th wide receiver. Well done. Mike Davis in the 9th. We'll see how that pans out. As of right now, he's a starting running back for Atlanta. Mike Gesicki is his tight end. He grabbed him in the 10th. Damian Harris, Marvin Jones, Tariq Cohen, and Naheem Hines to round out his draft. We talked about how much we really like the Damian Harris pick in the 11th round. And the FB Therapist is my winner. I'm just going to say, he is the guy that I pick for my rundown part because his team is an A, and I think it can compete with Jay Blizzy's team.
Yeah, I love Therapist's team, and he did it without having to take quarterback early.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, he did take Herbert. You would say Herbert's early based on normal leagues, but I like what he did there.
Yep,
and I like where that tiered break is too. It feels like a really appropriate spot, and you might be like, "Oh, we didn't have another quarterback take until blah blah blah." Justin Herbert though is potentially in that top category, and you didn't get him too early, and it looked pretty appropriate.
Yep. All right, Austin, bring us home.
All right, we're starting off here with the Cas Pajamas in the 9th selection takes Jonathan Taylor, and in the 2nd then Tyreek Hill. That is a very nice stack to get you started with, and then DK Metcalf in the 3rd. Love the upside him. We talk about him almost every week. Did this week as well. Justin Jefferson. Ooh, it just keeps getting better. Chase Edmonds, Raheem Mostert, and Leonard Fournette. You got a couple of running backs with some question marks, but the upside is very real. We just need to see how it works out. It's going to depend on draft day. It's going to depend on roster depth charts, but we'll see. Then a quadro of quarterbacks, Zach Wilson, Derek Carr, Cam Newton, Daniel Jones. You're hoping that 2 of them will be good. I don't know if that's going to happen for you in this rookie season. Zach Wilson, we liked all the upside he brings, but again, it's a rookie, so temper expectations there. Brandon Cooks and Henry Ruggs as 2 more wide receivers. Really like the Henry Ruggs upside. 2nd-year, highly touted rookie prospect coming in who showed flashes, but very little consistency. And then Hunter Henry, the newest New England Patriot, along with Jonnu Smith. I really like him actually at the tight end spot. I think that was kind of a sneaky one. Love the wide receiver combos, and Jonathan Taylor as your anchor running back is great. Fills in some pretty good secondary, most likely running backs here with Chase Edmonds, Raheem Mostert, Leonard Fournette. You got a question mark or 2. That's why you're getting him so late. Biggest concern here, though, comes with the quarterback spot. I don't. It's like you got 3 safe picks with Derek Carr, Cam Newton, and Daniel Jones, and they're safe but not exciting. They don't really bring that much upside to them anymore, and that makes me a little nervous in a Superflex league. So that's where the biggest hole is. But I think the rest of the squad's pretty good, but you do have a pretty big hole that's been created here at the quarterback spot. Moving on then to Jacob Bley. Number 1 fan at the 10 spot takes Nick Chubb. If you get Nick Chubb after Jonathan Taylor, I'm calling that one a win. I think that those 2 logically would be flipped, but take your guy, Cas Pajamas, do your thing. I have no issue with seeing Jonathan Taylor go at the 9 spot. Nick Chubb, though, at the 10, I think is a bit of a steal. Good for you. And Stephon Diggs, last year's number 3 wide receiver in PPR and standard. Like to see him getting in the 2nd round. You're happy about that. CEH, I'm a big fan of his 2nd year in Kansas City. Najee Harris, upside running back. Rookie running back. Let's see now. You get your 2nd and 3rd wide receivers here in Chris Godwin and Amari Cooper. Matt Stafford's going to be your 1st quarterback, and then either Kirk Cousins or Sam Darnold is your 2nd. You took Odell Beckham in the 8th to be your 4th wide receiver. I like that. Logan Thomas and Robert Tonyan, a couple of tight ends there for you in the 11th and 12th picks as your 2 quarterbacks in the 9th and 10th. Kirk Cousins and Sam Darnold. You're hoping one of them works out for you. Michael Gallup in the 13th. And A.J. Dillon in the 14th. Love that A.J. Dillon pick that late. He's going to be a good running back who's going to sit staunchly behind Aaron Jones, but that doesn't mean that A.J. Dillon's not going to get work, and God forbid something happens to Aaron Jones. You might have yourself a true RB1 there you got at the end of the draft. So I like this. I like this team, Jacob Bley. I think you hedged your bets pretty well. Nice upside at running back. Nice upside at wide receiver. I don't love Chris Godwin and Amari Cooper from an upside perspective, especially like if DJ Moore was still available. But I can get it if you like him and why you do. And I think it's a nice play. And again, quarterback is kind of iffy, but it's not as iffy as Cas Pajamas was here. It's not a bad team. It's not a bad team. Moving on then to the last selection here with Captain Bob at the 12 spot, takes the 3rd quarterback off the board in Kyler Murray. Vegas likes him as an MVP candidate coming into his 3rd season. As a Cardinals fan, I do too. As a fantasy football analyst, I kind of do too. We'll see. James Robinson in the 2nd and Chris Carson in the 3rd. You got a couple of meaty, bruising running backs there. I like it. We'll see what happens in the draft, but I think you're sitting in a pretty good spot with both those running backs. I like it. And then Calvin Ridley and Robert Woods, not the sexiest wide receivers, but really productive ones. I don't think you have any cause for concern. And Calvin Ridley could take a huge jump this year again. He's He was the number 4 wide receiver in standard, number 5 last year, jumped Julio for the first time, and you expect he's going to want to keep that trend going. So Calvin Ridley actually could be a really big come up here. Robert Woods just always outperforms his ADP all the time. He's like the best wide receiver 2 ever. Last year was the number 13 wide receiver in standard and PPR. Kareem Hunt, he's like the he is the Tevin Coleman to Devontae Freeman back in the day. He's productive on his own. He's really good. Cleveland loves him too. So you like that. Cortland Sutton is your 3rd wide receiver. We're all expecting big things out of the young wide receiver here in Denver. I think coming into his 4th year, being healthy, you got a good thing to look forward to. Carson Wentz is your 2nd quarterback. Wish him the best in Indiana. And Robbie Anderson, Devontae Parker, Rashad Bateman as your 4th, 5th, and 6th wide receivers. Pretty good ones. We heard Big Travie talk about Robbie Anderson and the upside he brings to the table, especially if him and Sam Darnold can keep hooking up. Devontae Parker, we know what he's about as long as he can stay healthy. We know what he's capable of, I should say. I don't think we actually know what he's about, but we know what he's capable of, and you get him out late. You love the upside there. Evan Ingram and Irv Smith, liking that at the tight end spot, actually really, really good upside play. Combining those two, one of them should work out pretty well, and I'm surprised you were able to get both of them so late. And then Kylan Hill is a nice running back fill-in. It's not just the recency bias here. Captain Bob is my favorite team of the 3, especially if Carson Wentz hits. If we see a little bit of a return to what Carson Wentz was expected, and if he's just serviceable, you're going to get a really solid QB2. And then Kyler Murray, we said MVP candidate. Starting running backs James Robinson, Chris Carson, and Kareem Hunt is your 3rd. That's very nice. Calvin Ridley, Robert Woods, Cortland Sutton, with all that depth behind it. I think that's pretty solid. I like this one as a strong B+ team for me, with the other ones being in that same B category, but behind Captain Bob this week.
All right, there we have it, boys. We made it.
Another week.
I love it. I love it here.
Look,
Joss Whedon has been riding the laundry, because we call Austin, you called him Jarvis Laundry earlier. He's just been riding the laundry puns. Never a chore if you do what you love. Jarvis Laundry.
Yeah, and then right here.
Having to ring out one more laundry pun.
Oh, that was great.
I love it. Well, I think Jarvis Laundry is going to clean up this year.
Oh, yes. Oh. Nice. Well, Whisper Nation, we want to know what you think. Let us know in the comments which one of our teams that we were the top 3 there, which you think won it. But we appreciated drafting with you. This was a good one, Austin.
Thanks, man. This was a good time.
Yeah.
Whisper Nation, you're the reason why. Like and subscribe so you can catch the action. Thursday, we get the live draft reaction show coming our way. Jump in the bandwagon with us. Love to have you along.
Yep, and catch our show on Wednesday. We will be live on Wednesday. Until next time, Whisper Nation.
Peace.
Peace.
Right here.
Oh, hey, you made it to the end of the video. If you like what you saw, go ahead and hit subscribe. Make sure you hit that bell so you get notified anytime we drop new content or go live. And if you're still not sold yet, check out one of these videos.